Reporting now on The Wolves Always Come at Night, a 2024 picture directed by one Gabrielle Brady, labelled a docu-fiction piece covering a shepherd and his family in rural Mongolia and their eventual decision to move to a city, Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia, in order to find more consistent work and income. A stirring film, immaculately photographed by Michael Latham, The Wolves Always Come at Night is a seminal realization of the traits of the slow cinema tradition in employing the documentary form and willingly engendering a narrative in an otherwise non-fictional environment. The work feels far more organic and lived in than even the greatest masters' works of slow cinema, Angelopoulos, Simon Liang, Lav Diaz, or certainly Bela Tarr. And as far as other documentary auteurs go, it is less outsider ethnographic than Ulrike Oettinger's features. I don't say that to diminish her genius at all. Oettinger is one of the five greatest filmmakers alive, in my view. Less involved and ecstatic than the Herzog documentary works, and it certainly isn't as clinical as the genius output of Wang Bing either, though these are different justified approaches, really. Or more so than an otherwise strong fictional film from 2019, a slow cinema project titled Ondog, which, whilst only 100 minutes in length, displays all the noted characteristics of slow cinema to the point wherein I was able to predict everything that was about to happen before it happened. Another individual is going to eventually approach the subject from the left side of this landscape frame. The character is going to remain sitting in the room as the person he was just speaking to engages in a joyful conversation with others off screen in the adjoining room. These two are becoming so close and will engage in physical intimacy in an attempted, naturalistic, and clinically organic way. Whilst the film was admirable enough as an act of composition, it made me feel as though slow cinema had mostly run out of ideas and was repeating itself in different cultural and geographic contexts. I viewed the film at the Sydney Film Festival of 2019 with Noel Oakeshott, who strongly championed the director's Wang Quan'an's 2011 film White Deer Plain. I wholly admired Brady's work here. I appreciated how they very openly have writers credited for the film. They want to be transparent about how, whilst these may be real subjects and circumstances, Brady had attempted to manicure a narrative of those real subjects and circumstances, accurate to those circumstances it may be. I preferred this approach to the apparent illusion that director and writer Ivan Castineras applied for his 2025 feature Gods of Stone, which is plainly docu-fiction and yet seemingly purports to an uninformed viewer to depict very profound and impactful moments in an adolescent girl's life, which are so evidently staged and presumably rehearsed so as to make one question the legitimacy of the film's slice-of-life pronouncement. I went perhaps a bit too needlessly, playfully, incendiary, and performatively mock scornful in my upload for Gods of Stone, but only because it would be more fun to write like that than more formally, and whatever motivates me to complete the pieces, I'll willingly commit to that. I would highly recommend all of you go and view this film. It is only 90 minutes in length and will not take up too much of your time, even if you don't adore it. Is more worth your money than most of the nonsense out in the cinemas at the moment, and is a more valid exercise in slow cinema drama than the fictionalized outright variants which employ documentary adjacent cinematographic traits, as it acts as a documentary though consciously molds a narrative of their subjects which is parallel and corresponding to their actual circumstances in a factual respect. One of the better films of the year, I may confidently say. Also important for reminding us all that the life of going to work, even when supporting a family which you unconditionally love, is a dehumanizing hell and ought never be romanticized. Brady does not remotely exoticize or glorify the, to an Australian audience, highly distinct lifestyle of Mongolian shepherds or even workers in the city. She displays the cruelties and miseries which all of the world's workers experience. It reminds me of how Wim Wenders, in a totally fictional film, 2023's Perfect Days, reminded us by the runtime's conclusion that it isn't cute or quaint or zen that the protagonist spends his day smiling and listening to music between cleaning public lavatories. It is soulless and dehumanizing a task, and the only subjects glorifying it are our sometimes orientalist, exoticizing, especially where Japan is concerned, selves, and that the Vendors film subject has no more reason to be happy than the subject of a Wang Bing film, unless we naively decide that it does as a pseudo-cultured, smugly counter-suburban, not that suburbia ought to be glorified and not demonized, crowd of grotesquely, expensively dressed wealthier couples, but let's not be that anymore. For the good of the planet, the species, and ourselves, we'll all be better off. Surely we can only go uphill from this pit we've dug out for ourselves. There is even a suggestion, perhaps not deliberate on Brady's end, that at least the shepherding lifestyle, though unrepentantly tough, was more fulfilling, unalienated labour, as some might claim, versus the role which the father of the family takes up when they live in the city, uprooting minerals from the earth to his expressed chagrin, contributing to the pollution which is devastating this planet to supposedly eventual apocalyptic proportions. A stellar film. All of you must find time to check out. The Wolves Always Come Out at Night. It is a compositional apotheosis of a half-century old, now cinematic narrative tradition, a highly honest yet still entirely immersive and insightful documentary effort, and a film which has a late millennial Australian feeling a psychic kinship with a Mongolian shepherd turned soil miner, firmly believing that we're all in this together. This isn't an other. This isn't a fictional subject in the Philippines, Hungary, or Taiwan. This isn't even, especially isn't, an overly romanticized subject individual who is supposed to feel like a gallant contrast to the norms of the English-speaking world. It is a flatlining, a democratization of the human experience with which Brady deserves all the accolades she receives or is nominated for.